All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back to the channel. So you guys are in luck. I am going to share with you this new footage of Jon Jones training. A lot of it, actually. At least it was new to me. There's a lot of footage of Jon Jones training for heavyweight that I was like, whoa. And I watched all of it. And I'm going to share it with you guys. I'm going to share my thoughts on Jon Jones, him chasing the heavyweight title. And then I'm going to talk about the Dustin Poirier thing again, because I did that video the other day. I did a terrible job making my point. I'm going to ask you guys a favor, actually. So if you watch my channel consistently, and this is not like your very first time and you're like, why is this guy asking me for a favor? I'm going to ask you, watch the portion at the end of this video about Dustin Poirier and then leave your thoughts in the comments. Why I want feedback is it's going to demonstrate my ability to communicate things. Like, that's honestly why I want to know. Is like, am I doing a good job of communicating this now that I've really structured my thoughts in a way where I'm going to deliver this information very deliberately instead of just vomiting a bunch of stuff out? So if you don't mind, watch that part. Give me your feedback in the comments, okay? Now, if you like the content, subscribe and ring the bell. We try to have a pretty interactive experience on this channel, and that's what we do. So let's start looking at some of this Jon Jones footage, because it is, I mean, look, dude, this is the thing about Jon Jones. If you take away his juice pops, the problems that he's had outside the octagon are not what I'm talking about. I'm talking solely about performance-enhancing, issues. If you take those off the board, there is no conversation who the GOAT is. None. That's not even there is no argument against him. There's no reasonable argument against him at all. And you're essentially looking at the living greatest fighter of all time, right? He's still alive. He's still, not just still alive, still alive. He's still like active in his career. So the GOAT, okay? So let's just all suspend what we know about the juice pops, which is, juice pop is my slang for being popped for juice, okay? Suspend that, and then keep in mind that what we're looking at is the single greatest fighter of all time who is going up to heavyweight to try to capture the heavyweight title, which is the most prestigious title that there is, because theoretically, the heavyweight champion should be able to beat all the other champions, which means it's the baddest man on the planet. Now, if that doesn't capture your imagination, then it's impossible, as a matter of fact. If you really think, like, I know there are a lot of people, like guys like Jon Jones, basically anyone who's a big star, for the most part, minus maybe Khabib, maybe minus GSP, but for the most part, if there's someone who's a big star, you're going to have some people that just don't like them, right? Like there's something that they've done, especially someone who's controversial like Jon Jones, or maybe, Conor, or like, Masvidal, whoever. Like guys that are like, a little bit controversial, Colby certainly, you're going to have guys that don't like them and don't root for them. But so the guys that do not like Jon Jones and don't root for him, he's given you plenty of reason to be on that side. So I'm not chastising anyone if that's how you feel, but just suspend your emotional negativity towards him for a second and actually wrap your brain around that, okay? The living greatest of all time is going up to heavyweight to try to win that title, and who's up there waiting for him? Francis Ngannou, okay? The single scariest heavyweight in the history of the sport by a mile, or in the event that Cyril does win in January, Cyril Gane, an undefeated kickboxer that stylistically looks like the worst matchup ever for Jon Jones. So either way it goes, Jon Jones is going up against a nightmare. So if that doesn't capture your imagination, I don't understand. You can't be a fan of the sport and that not capture your imagination. Like, you can't, okay? And so when I was watching this footage today, I'm like, man, there's a lot of things that I noticed. Number one, okay, like in the part where he's sprinting on the treadmill, he is fast. Like he's moving quickly. He doesn't look heavy. He doesn't look like it's labored for him to move quickly. He looks like a heavyweight that is a heavyweight, like a finely tuned heavyweight. When I look at him moving around as a heavyweight, he looks very dangerous. Like he looks like a guy that could very, very, very well win this title. And again, like I think that if he wins the title, even with the juice pops, I'm not sure if you can deny that he's the GOAT, man. Like I really don't. I don't think you can deny it if he goes up to heavyweight and he wins the title, right? Because the thing is, all this other stuff, all his he gets drunk, gets arrested, the thing with his wife, or like the DUIs, all that shit does not factor into the GOAT conversation as it relates to pound for pound best fighter of all time. Those are non-factors. They just aren't. That's not a thing that factors into that conversation. The juice pops are, but not that, And so I don't know, man. I'm finding it very hard not to root for him, dude. I mean, I would never root against Francis or his team, obviously, but but yeah, I'm having a hard time rooting against Jon Jones. Here's one thing I will say though, relating to Francis and Jon Jones, because this is totally related. So I actually talked to Markel yesterday for a long time, Francis' manager, and one thing that I hadn't even thought about we were talking about how like Francis is a Mack truck right now. Like Francis is a Mack truck. He's going to be cutting to 265. Okay, he's walking around significantly heavier than 265 and not carrying fat around. He just keeps getting bigger, like more and more muscle. And you know, we were talking about that, and then we were talking about how his, you know, that from a what's it called? Like a muscle memory perspective, like Francis still, like when you actually really watch Francis's technique, you can tell it's still like he doesn't look like, I mean, you know, a lot of heavyweights don't really look like they've got that really kind of like super crisp movements. But with Francis, something Markel brought up is he's like, dude, the guy's only been like, think about when he started fighting. And I never even thought about that, dude. Like Francis was I mean, I had thought about this, but not as it relates to his quick twitch and his muscle fibers and all that stuff that get trained into doing specific motions, you know, where like he was in a sand mine in his 20s, dude, in his 20s, right? He still hasn't been fighting for 10 years, like training, has not even been training for 10 years. And so you really think about that. And it's like, so Markel played college football, right? And I was like, that's so crazy. I was like, think about when you were 23 when you were 23 or 20, whatever Francis was when he started fighting, right? Like think about where your football muscle memory was when you were 23, dude. And he's like, dude, I was a fucking machine. Yeah, of course. And any athlete, by the time you're 23, your muscle fibers are built for you to do very specific motions that are directly implemented when you're practicing your sport, especially striking, dude. Especially, that's why these guys that have been boxing since they're 3 years old, when they're 23, just look like, you're like, man, that looks like someone computer generated perfect technique and mixed with absolutely blinding speed. It's, whoa, I almost knocked my computer over. It's just blinding. It's like, bah, 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 bah. It's just perfect. And it's muscle memory. The muscles build into, a body that's going to be able to perform those things perfectly. And Francis started in his 20s, which is crazy. But the reason why I bring that up is because Jon Jones, taking as long as he has, to actually make his debut at heavyweight, thinking through that, what we were talking about last night, is really smart, dude. So that's what I've got. I'm very excited about this, right? Now I'm going to talk about the Dustin Poirier thing. I might even cut that part out because I don't want anybody leaving before I talk about the Dustin Poirier thing. So here it is. Now, just to recap what I said, I would very much appreciate you guys if you guys listen to this portion and then comment what your thoughts are, because I very clearly did not convince 50% of the people that what I was saying made sense. And I'm telling you 100% positive, okay? So let me level set again. What I said in my last video was that Dustin Poirier, when asked about Conor saying that they were still in a beef and that the trilogy was not over, okay? Dustin was like, he's not even on my radar right now. Like, Conor's not even on my radar. And I lost it, okay? And what I didn't do is explain the premise of why that was such a mistake. Because I was just like, obviously you play directly into it. You say, he said this about my wife, he did this, he did this. Okay, but I didn't explain why that's so important. Okay, so here's the thing, right? Your job as a fighter is to fight and win and to promote yourself and to promote fights. That's it, okay? It's not that complicated, okay? Now, in many cases, you have a handful of opportunities to promote a really big fight, right? Like a really big fight. Almost no one gets that opportunity, okay? Like almost no fighters have the opportunity to promote an enormous fight. Look at how big of a star Masvidal is, okay? Like Masvidal's an enormous star. Now, a big enough star to where he's gonna do a lot of numbers no matter what, okay? But he'll never have a bigger opportunity to do a grudge match than with Colby. If Colby would have won the title and that would have been for a belt and he hadn't lost to Kamaru and there were more ideal, like that would have done such bananas numbers, it's crazy. And you're talking about one of the biggest stars in the sport, that's Masvidal, right? If you're someone who's not one of those absolutely tip-top guys like Masvidal, Nate, Conor, to have the opportunity to do a pay-per-view that could potentially do 2 million pay-per-views or more, does not happen, okay? Like just does not happen. It doesn't happen, except Khabib, which is how Khabib became Khabib, right? Khabib was making 200 grand a fight before the Conor fight, right? I know everybody wants to just like rewrite history. Khabib's always been the biggest star ever. That's not true, dude. That's not true. It's not true. He always had great fight game, but he became one of the top tier, best, biggest fighters of all time after, or in the lead up and then after the Conor fight, okay? Period. So it is extraordinarily rare for someone to have the opportunity to have a fight that big if they're not one of those guys, okay? Now, Dustin is an amazing fighter. One of the greatest fighters of all time, Hall of Fame for 100% sure, probably the best current active 155-pound fighter. But he is not one of those guys. He's not. You're not going to convince me he is because it's not up for debate. He's not. He's not one of the top 5 guys. If he headlines a show, you'll find out right now. You'll find out at 269. Okay, him versus Charles Oliveira. You think that's going to do over 1 million buys? Okay, do you think it will? Because I don't. And do you think it'll do 1.5? No. Do you think there's any chance if they made it a death match? Do you think it's going to do 2 million buys? No. Okay, he's not a big enough star for that. Right? He's a huge star-ish, but not like that, okay? So, the point that I'm making is that as a fighter, when someone gives you the opportunity to do a historic level fight, it is your job to take that opportunity, okay? Like, it's your job to recognize that opportunity and then take it, okay? So here's the point that I'm making. People think, like some of the comments that I got when I said what Dustin should have done was he should have said, of course it's not over. Conor threatened my wife. Conor said he's going to kill me in my sleep. Okay, I'm going to go fight Charles, and maybe I'll go fight some other guys first. But whenever I do this with Conor, this is a blood feud. This is never over between me and him. This is something that's bigger than the sport. Okay, so the point I was making is he needs to convince the public that his conflict with Conor transcends the sport. It's bigger than the sport. The sport is not big enough to contain the level of animosity and the desire that he has, or the necessity that he has as a man to defend his honor, defend his family because of the things that Conor said and the things that Conor did, okay? That's the message that he should have given. Instead, he went, he's not even on my radar. And he literally ruined his ability to do that. Like, you can't come back. You can't go back and pretend you didn't say that. Maybe you could. You should definitely try, but it's going to be harder, right? The reason I got so upset is because I'm like, he really didn't recognize what was in front of him. Like, he didn't recognize the opportunity that was given to him. It's not just fighting Conor. So another thing people kept saying, they said a couple things. They said, oh, I think it's a power play, dude. Conor's always getting what he wants. Everyone always wants to fight Conor. Everyone always wants to ask for the Conor fight. It's like a gangster play to say, no, I don't even care about Conor. Okay, wrong. Okay, wrong. It's everyone is always asking for a Conor fight because they want the Conor fight. Like, they need the Conor fight, or they have a lot to gain from the Conor fight. Okay, but they're not actually in line for the Conor fight. They don't actually have a compelling reason that they should get the Conor fight, right? Okay, that is a very different thing than the person who just fought Conor, beat him. Conor's angry, threatening you publicly, and Conor wants to fight you again. Okay, like you're not begging him for a fight. You are literally picking up the million or the fucking Mega Millions lottery ticket that he handed you on a platter. Okay, like this is not the same thing. And punking Conor, power play. What the fuck are you talking about? This isn't a game of egos. You're talking ego shit, dude. That's ego shit. I'm talking about money. I'm talking about business, dude. We're talking about business. You're talking childish teenage shit. I'm talking about fucking business, okay? The business is promoting fights, building huge hype, selling as many pay-per-views as possible. The UFC is not your boss, okay? You are an independent contractor. The UFC is 1099ing you. You don't get a W-2. It means you are a startup owner, and every fight is its own startup, okay? And so basically, every time that you fight in the UFC will give people some stuff, and that's why they get paid what they get paid. But if you are able to create something that's big on your own, that you and your business partner, who is the other fighter you're fighting against, if you guys can build something huge, that's why you get paid so much, because the UFC will reward you because you guys have a lot of leverage, because you built interest in that matchup, okay? So my point is this, okay? It doesn't matter if he's actually mad at Conor. It's irrelevant. The only thing that matters is what the public believes, okay? So here's the other thing that people said. They're like, Conor says he's going to kill everyone. He talks about people's wives and stuff all the time. He talked about Khabib's wife. He talked about this. Wrong. Okay. Yeah, he does do that. Yeah, I'm going to kill him in the ring. That doesn't matter. Okay. You know that. Okay. You person that's watching this video, you know that. You want to know why? Because you're like me. Okay. Me and you are the same. We're hardcore fans. That's why I have a YouTube channel. That's why you're watching my YouTube channel. We're hardcores. Okay. There's no UFC going on right now. There's not even a fucking event tonight. You're watching this video. That's because you're a hardcore fan. You and me see the sport the same. At least the sport as fans. Okay. What we're talking about when you sell 2.5 million pay-per-views, you're talking about like 50 to 100 million people are going to see it, right? I mean, I don't know if that's accurate, but there's like for every pay-per-view buy, you're talking between 5 and 20 people actually watching it, okay? So you know that Conor says he's going to kill people all the time. You know that. I know that, okay? We represent like 10% of people who would pay for or watch a big, enormous fight. Now, after the Conor McGregor and Dustin fight, how many pay-per-views did that thing do? Okay, it did like 1.5 or 1.6 or something like that. And then they have the global, right? You're talking probably 50 million people saw that fight. We're watching that fight when, after the fight, the last thing Conor said, he got on the microphone, right? Dustin's wife is in the octagon, okay? So Dustin, everyone knows he's a family man, right? And then even the casuals now, they learned he's a family man. There's his wife. She's hugging him. He loves her. He actually said specifically into the microphone, he's like, he threatened my life. He wants my kids to grow up without a father, blah, blah, blah. Said that in front of everyone. So everyone's like, oh, he's a family guy. They put a microphone in front of Conor. They all heard Conor say, your wife's in my DMs. Your wife's in my DMs. Now, to you, hardcore fan, that's not a big deal because you heard him say that the previous week, right? You knew he said that the previous week. You are not them, okay? You are not the target for making a huge pay-per-view. I'm not the target. You're not the target. The additional 40 million people who were watching television in that moment are the target. They all saw Conor say your wife's in my DMs while Dustin was in the ring with his fucking wife. So there's a visual. They know who his wife is. They know her name's Jolie. They know because they went and Googled it. They're like, who's his wife? Who is this chick? 50 million people Google. They see a picture of Jolie. They know who she is. She's not an imaginary person. She's not Khabib's wife. She's not some other random person's wife. They know her name's Jolie. They know what she looks like. They know she's married to Dustin. Conor talked about her on the microphone in front of all of them. So what is everyone's impression? Dustin, family man. Conor called out his wife. Okay, so that's where we left the story off. Okay, that's where the story is left off for the public. Okay, and so the next time, so my point is this: no one knows what Dustin's emotional reaction to that is, and no one is in a position to judge his emotional reaction to it because you can say and feel whatever you want when it comes to your family. You're a man. He's a fighter, a professional fighter. Okay, he can feel whatever he wants. He can say whatever he wants. Okay. And so when the story has now picked up again, right? Like it's been an intermission since the end of July or mid-July, whenever that was. And then now Dustin's back in the limelight. He's fighting for the title and people are watching and they're like, so Conor says that your beef is still hot. What do you say? And it's like, oh, chapter 2 of their beef. Where's it at? Right? Where's it at? The whole world, right? Where's it at? And so let's assume that Dustin likes money and wants to promote potentially the biggest fight ever. Okay. What happens if he says what I said? So now let's go back to what I said he should have said. And he says, is it over? He threatened to kill me in my sleep. He threatened to kill my family. He said it, my wife's in his DMs in front of the entire world. Over? Of course it's not over. It'll never be over. And when he and I fight, he's going to find out that he did something that he's going to wish he didn't. That's not a thing you say to a person like me, dude. And so when it's time, I'm focused on Charles right now because I've got a beast in front of me and I need to go win the championship. But when I have some time, me and Conor are going to figure that out. And he's going to find out the hard way what happens when you talk about my fucking family like that. And something like that. That's what he says. Okay? Now, and everyone's like, who cares? He doesn't need to fight Conor right now. I'm not saying he needs to fight Conor, dude. This is a story that you watch in pieces. You saw chapter 1, chapter 2 should have been this. Dustin confirming to everyone, you're right, it's never over. And when we pick this story up in the octagon, it's going to be the fucking blood feud of the century. I'm going to kill this motherfucker in the octagon, okay? So then, even if he doesn't fight Conor, what happens for Dustin, right? Like, Dustin is not only responsible for hyping specific fights, hype himself, okay? What story is going to get more attention, okay? Like, what's going to get more eyeballs on Dustin Poirier, who's about to fucking fight, right? He's about to fight in December. He's hyping a fight right now, okay? What's going to get more, like, do you think, which answer is going to get more people interested in your next fight, okay? Blood feud, Conor crossed me like this, he threatened my fucking family, I'm a man you don't do that to, and they're like, damn, who's he fighting next, right? God damn, dude, Conor fucked up. That guy looks fucking mad, son. And then you're selling your next pay-per-view also. Then you do whatever you're gonna do next. It doesn't matter if it's Conor. You just make sure that anytime they ask you, so where are things with you and Conor? It's like, oh shit, there's a new chapter of the Dustin Conor thing. And the chapter literally consists of your next 15 seconds of talking into a camera. Okay, this is fucking that's what I'm saying. This is why I get so worked up. I'm like, this is common sense, dude. But apparently it's not, okay? Someone told me in the comments today, they're like, dude, you are literally a fight marketing genius. And that might be true, because this is so obvious to me, it's unbelievable. And if I'm not doing a good, like, if anybody is listening to this and they're like, no, it's still good that Dustin just dismissed the Conor thing, then I clearly am not good at communicating things, or that person has a learning disability. One of the two. So one of us is not even close to as smart as we think we are, because this should be crystal clear the way that I'm laying this out, okay? Stories do not have to be, and they're like, oh, I hate all this WWF shit. This is not WWF shit. Like, this isn't WWF shit. Conor really said those things, right? Everyone saw him really say those things. All you have to say is, if let's say Dustin doesn't care, right? All you have to do is just pretend to care. Right? We're not fabricating something out of nothing. Conor really did those things. You just have to just say you're still mad. Say you're still going to get revenge for what he did. That's it, dude. This is not you're not having to conjure up a whole phony thing, So that's why I got so worked up. And that's why I am feeling like I have to do an entire other video to respond, because there's just this is not up for debate. Like, I'm correct, right? Like, unless Dustin's just like, no, I don't want, I would prefer less people buy my pay-per-views, or asking me to say that I'm mad at Conor is not worth an additional 250,000 pay-per-views on this next fight, and then an additional 1 million pay-per-views whenever I fight Conor. It's not worth it for me. Okay. I mean, and if I was your manager and I was UFC, I would be like, what the fuck, bro? And I get it. Dustin is not like me, right? In terms of this, right? I've watched Dustin in interviews. I think he's fucking hilarious. I think he and I would be actually really, really good buddies. But when it comes to this particular thing, talking to the camera, convince him, blah, blah, blah. Dustin's 100 times tougher than me in real life, obviously. Dustin Poirier could make it through fucking SEAL Team Hell Week 3 times. There's no physical metric where he's not crushing me. This I was born to do, and I get it. He doesn't really like that part of it, but it's there's tons of shit I do that I don't like doing, but this is just this is fucking insane. Conor literally gave it to you on a plate, was like, here you go. I will play my part. I'm actually actively playing my part right now. I'm out over in Italy, punching DJs, playing the bad guy. All you have to do is play the good guy who's defending his family, and everyone will pay to watch it. Here you go. It's on a platter. And Dustin's like, nah. I'm focused on Charles. You're like, stay focused on, just fucking answer the question correctly. Anyway, that's what I've got. So now you guys can comment and tell me if you think I'm crazy or if what I said actually makes perfect fucking sense, okay? Marketing is what we're talking about. I love you guys.